Please rise in body or spirit as you are able as we sing our gathering hymn, number 124 in the gray hymnal, Be That Guide. Be that guide whom love sustains, rise above the daily strife. Lift on high the good you find, ever heal the earth of life. Be that helper nothing daunts, doubt a friend or taunt a foe. Ever strive for liberty, show the path that life should go. Be that builder trusting good, bitter through the may be. Through all ages they are right, though they build in agony. Be that teacher faith directs, move beyond the old frontier. Though the frightened fear that faith be tomorrow's pioneer.
Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem. I am Brenna Norville, and I will be your celebrant today. We welcome Marcia Christenson to the pulpit today to share her thoughts about the season of Lent. For those who are new, or you who always don't remember the words, our two spoken things and the song words for the two songs are on the back of your order of service. Holy and beautiful the custom which brings us together in the presence of the Most High to face our ideals, to remember our loved ones in absence, to give thanks, to make confession, to offer forgiveness, to be enlightened and to be strengthened. Through this quiet hour breathes the worship of ages, the cathedral music of history. Three unseen guests attend: faith, hope, and love. Let all our hearts prepare them place. Mindful of truth, ever exceeding our knowledge, and community ever exceeding our practice, reverently we covenant together, beginning with ourselves as we are, to share the strength of integrity and the heritage of the Spirit. In the unending quest for wisdom and love, in the spirit of the quest, let us say together our affirmation, and the words are going to be on the back. Love is our doctrine, compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration, build a community of caring fellowship, nurture the hopes, and serve the needs of our world. fire, spark of the universe that warmed our ancestral hearth, agent of life and death, symbol of truth and freedom, we strive to understand ourselves and our earthly home. Each week, we light 3 chalices. The first is for this congregation, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem. The second is for our partner church in Szymanfalva, Transylvania, Romania. And our third is for our children and youth in lifespan religious education and in our world at large. Let us sing the flames into life, and the words are on the back.
Good morning. Good morning. Can I please have everyone young and young at heart up here in front with me? Hi, everybody. Guess what? It is March, and that means we have a new theme. This month, our theme is trust. Does anyone know what trust is?
Trust you.
Yeah, you trust people sometimes. Does that, what might you trust? Might you trust something that they say?
Yeah.
Yeah? Or maybe you trust that they can do something? Yeah? Who are some people that you guys trust? Nobody? Oh. That's too bad. Do you trust your teachers? Yeah? What about your parents? Yeah? You trust your friends. Those are good people to trust. Good. Does anyone trust themselves? Yeah, good. Okay, here we go. Here's my story for today. It is The Little Engine That Could. Once there was a big train filled with toys and goodies for children that was stuck at the bottom of a steep mountain. The train needed to get to the other side, but its engine was not working. All day, other trains passed by, including a red engine, a big black engine, and a shiny green engine. Each time, the broken engine asked for help, but they all refused, saying they were too important or too busy. Then, a small blue engine came along. It wasn't strong or big, but when asked to help, the little engine said, "I'll try." The red engine, the big black engine, and the shiny green engine all laughed, thinking that there was no way this little blue engine could pull the train cars over the mountain. But the little blue engine just hitched herself up to the heavy train and started pulling. Chugga, 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 choo, choo. Up the mountain went the little blue engine, slowly but surely. And as she did, she began to sing, "I think I can, I think I can, I think I can." The little engine chanted as it climbed higher and higher. Chugga, 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 choo, choo. It was tough, and the little engine was tired, but it didn't give up. Chugga, 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 choo, choo. Finally, after much effort, the little blue engine reached the top and started down the other side. The toys and goodies made it to the children, and everyone cheered for the little engine that believed in itself and kept going. The little blue engine unhooked herself and said goodbye, and as she made her way back down the mountain, she said, "I thought I could, I thought I could, I thought I could." Did she do it? Yeah, because she believed in herself. Yes.
Is that a knockoff version version of Thomas the Train Engine.
Oh, have you not heard The Little Engine That Could? I think The Little Engine That Could has maybe been around longer than Thomas the Train. Yeah. I think Thomas the Train was stolen from The Little Engine That Could. Is there a driver? Well, in our story, the train is the driver. And the train believed in itself. And what I want you guys to know is that when you believe in yourself, oftentimes that you will find that you can do a lot more than you might realize. Whoa, I know. Okay, does that make sense? I believe in you guys, and I want you to know that. Okay, I know we all do. I have some birthday cards. Oh, yay, and I know I have at least one birthday person here today. Is Chloe Rogers here? Raleigh? Is Raleigh here today? No. Daniel? Joey? Yeah. Happy birthday, Joey. Lily?
Is my name in there?
When is your birthday?
November.
So in November, come and visit me on the first Sunday of the month, and I'll get you a birthday card, okay? And I have Maya. And I will get these ones in the mail. And now if we can make the love arch, thank you all very much.
Good morning. As you can see, we are at 70% of our pledge goal, and 70% of my hair is colored purple. I'm really excited that we're closing out this pledge drive with a soup Sunday. It's been a staple of our congregation, and it's a great way to celebrate how we connect with each other as a congregation. After this week, volunteers are going to start phone banking, so by next Sunday I should have a final pledge total for you. Stepping into the role of stewardship chair has been an unexpected journey for me. I had a lot of very strong ideas about and opinions about running a pledge drive and how it should be done. So when the opportunity came along, I volunteered reluctantly. I hesitated partly because there's a lot I didn't know about running a pledge drive, and partly because I'm on a fixed income, which makes me wonder if my financial contribution would even matter. It's one thing to stand up here and say every pledge matters. It's another thing to truly believe it and practice it. I gave financially to other nonprofits and have organized fundraisers for Planned Parenthood and other organizations. But pledging to UC feels different. For a long time, I've struggled to see the value of my pledge. I volunteer so many hours, does my $20 even matter? But what I've come to realize is that UUCS is my home. And like any home, it's not always easy. Arguments happen, feelings get hurt, but the dishes still need to be done, and the bills still need to be paid. No matter what, UUCS is still here. I love volunteering with other organizations, but this is the place that I return to. It is where I feel the most welcome, where I feel seen, where I feel I would be lost without this building to come to each week, to spend time volunteering in the office, attending a meeting, or just being part of the community. So it became important to me to make a financial contribution to this home, to express financially that value of this home and this community. My life has changed a lot since I first joined. In fact, I refused to sign the membership book if it meant that I had to be up here on the stage. I certainly didn't think it would be a regular thing. UUCS continues to be an anchor for me, as well as a place for me to grow and challenge myself. So yes, my pledge matters, and so does yours. Thank you.
I'm Eric Schumann, your Lifeline's lay minister this morning. We have 3 sorrows. The first one was shared anonymously on the website, expressing sorrow at the passing of Walt Laurie on January 17th. May our memory of him be a blessing. From Noah and Rowan, Grandpa Mac is back in the ICU and the prognosis isn't good. Please keep him in your hearts. And the third, from Laura Zygan, I am deeply concerned for the state of democracy right now. I don't know how we're going to get ourselves out of this. Your Lifeline's lay ministers are here for you in times of crisis or ill health. You can identify us by our lavender stoles, our lavender-colored badges, and you can find us after the service in the fellowship hall at the Lifeline's table. You can reach us through the UU Salem website. You can email us, and you can call the church office and leave a message for us. We light one more candle this morning. Hopefully, there are joys as well as sorrows in our hearts that we haven't expressed.
Before we begin our heart song, I'll just mention that next week the Compassionate Connections will be meeting. So if you're looking for that, that'll be held after the service next Sunday. We will now sing our heart song. That's 10:02 in the teal hymnal, Comfort Me. We'll sing 2 verses, and you may remain seated.
The reading today is called A Question, a Gift, and a Summons. I found it on the UUA webpage. It's from A Way Other Than Our Own, Devotions for Lent by Walter Brueggemann. Lent is a question, a gift, and a summons. The questions of Lent are, what are we doing? Are we working for that which does not satisfy? Are we spending for that which is not bread? The gifts of Lent are free. gifts in the gospel that sustain life, free wine and milk, free water and bread, and all the markings of sacrament that refuse our thin attempts at empire. The summons of Lent is to bear new fruit. Do what is in sync with the God of the gospel, the God who has another intention for our lives, who wants us out of the rat race of big is better, and so has mercy, who gives us pardon when we do not do enough by doing two things at once. We are left with a new sense of ourselves as God's people, no longer working for that which does not satisfy, receiving good gifts that we need for life, engaging in a new productivity of that which heals and transforms.
Thank you. That was almost so perfect. I hate to say anything after that. I wanted to talk about Lent because Ash Wednesday is this coming Wednesday. And this is a time in the liturgical church that has always meant a lot to me. And I thought I knew quite a bit about it. Turns out I don't really know very much at all. And I had a lot of fun. I interviewed a lot of people, and I did a lot of research at the library, and I've had a lot of fun with this. So the problem will be not telling you too much, okay? So Lent in the liturgical church is the 40-ish days that were and still are set aside to commemorate and reflect on Jesus' 40 days in the desert, where he fasted and then he faced some pretty heavy-duty temptations from Satan. And the 40 days began about 40-ish days before Easter Sunday, and they start with Ash Wednesday. Actually, it starts with Fat Tuesday, but I'll get to that later. But how it was even the date of Easter established, that turned out to be an interesting story. Before the Council of Nicaea in 325, Easter was celebrated by Christians, but on all different kinds of dates and all different kinds of ways. So by then we had the Roman Emperor Constantine I, who thought, let's get consensus among humans. And so he called the Council of Nicaea together, which was all of the Christian bishops at the time, and they met in the Bithynian city in the area of Nicaea, and that city is now Iznik, Turkey. And the idea was to try to get some consensus about Easter and how to celebrate that and a bunch of other stuff. And because at the time it wasn't illegal to be Christian anymore, you weren't going to be fed to the lions, you didn't have to meet in secret, you could meet in homes or wherever. The problem was that nobody had any agreement about what they were going to believe or how they were going to observe it. And so the Nicene Creed was born out of that, which was one of the early splits in the Christian church. But according to Constantine, if you didn't believe that, then you were arrested and exiled. So much for consensus, because there wasn't any. There was some, but not. Anyway, so back to that. So at that time, and there still are this time, two different ways of tracking time. And actually, according to my Apple phone, I am on Gregorian time because I'm in the West. But there's the Julian calendar too, and that's in the East. So, because nobody really had any idea when Jesus was crucified and when Easter happened, they decided to use the Gregorian calendar and then use the lunar calendar and tied it to Passover and the vernal equinox, which in that year was March 20th. This year it's March 21st. And so and it kind of made some sense because spring is a time of rebirth and renewal, and that's what Easter is celebrating, rebirth, renewal. So they looked at the vernal equinox, and they counted the first full moon after the vernal equinox. I didn't realize that. I just know, because I've worked in a lot of liturgical churches, you can look way into the future and know when Easter's coming. So in the West, Easter Sunday is somewhere between March 22nd and April 25th, somewhere. The Eastern Orthodox has a different way. Of course they do, because they use the Julian calendar, which is 13 days ahead. And so their Easter Sunday is tied to the first full moon after the end of Passover. So this year, believe it or not, this happens every once in a great while, Passover this year starts on the sundown April 12th and ends on Sunday, April 20th, sundown. Easter Sunday this year is April 20th, 25. And the Eastern Orthodox Julian calendar also places Easter Sunday on April 20th, 25. This year, wow. So Pope Francis, who is very critically ill in the hospital still, going on 3 weeks, thought maybe we could all get consensus on how to, good luck with that, because I have never seen humans in large groups can have consensus on very much. But anyway, it's a big deal that it all happens at the same time this year. So let's go back to like the 40 days. So what does the 40 days mean? Is it exactly 40 days? No. If you count backwards from April 20th of 25, you will not land on March 5th, I promise. It's like 40-something days. So, and looking up why do we do this 40 days thing? Because it comes up a lot in the Bible. Well, it kind of depends on what church you go to, when those 40, we all agree they start on Ash Wednesday. I'll talk about that. But how do you get to 40 with a calendar that doesn't come out to 40 days? So in the West, and I'm only going to talk about the West, I had to cut the East because it's made it too long. The Roman Catholics, who I'll refer to as the Romans, Moravians, Baptists, Lutherans, Anglicans, there's a bunch. But I thought this was interesting. The Mormons don't observe Lent at all. If you're Anglican, you don't count Sundays. But if you're Roman Catholic, you do. Don't know why. Many of the Western Christian churches end Lent on Palm Sunday. The Romans end it on Maundy Thursday, which is the Thursday in the middle of Holy Week. So what is up with 40 then, since obviously we're not really obeying that very well? In Hebrew numerology, remember, this all started with a Jewish man in a Jewish community, okay? So in Hebrew numerology, 40 is a number that symbolizes complete. It takes as long as it takes, one pastor told me. So in the Bible, you see a lot about 40 days, 40 weeks, 40 years, 40, and it just means it takes as long as it takes. So like Moses took the Israelites into the desert to escape slavery for 40 years. Was it exactly 40 years? I don't know. He also fasted 40 days when he left the group and went up to get the 10 Commandments. He was gone for 40 days. And was it exactly 40 days? I don't know. And then we also hear about Elijah, who spent 40 days wandering around in the wilderness to find Mount Horeb to bring water back to the dry land. We learned about Noah's 40 days of rain that washed out all of the known world at the time. So what it means is 40 days, 40 as long as it takes. And Jesus, I guess, spent the 40 days in the wilderness as he was preparing for his ministry in the Galilean area. So what do people do during Lent? Well, the overarching idea of Lent is to lead a believer to living more closely to the teachings and examples set by Jesus. And according to the Bible, Jesus spent the 40 days in the desert fasting and preparing for his ministry. At the end, he was hungry and physically worn out. He faced serious temptations from Satan. Things like, you could break your fast, who cares? Or you could jump off this cliff, and you're the Son of God, so God will come down and rescue you, right? And Jesus said, no, we're not supposed to actually play it that way. So he didn't. He stayed true on his path. He stayed true to his ministry. He stayed true to what he believed his calling was. So the 3 pillars of Lent among Christian faith practices, pretty much across the board, whether you're Eastern, Western, there are 3 pillars. It's prayer, fasting, and almsgiving or sharing. They're all intended to commemorate the life of Christ and also the time he spent in the desert or the wilderness. And that said, there's almost as many ways to live into that as there are people who are living into that, of course. But the emphasis universally is on self-reflection, the simplicity of living, and living with sincerity and compassion. Some of the early ideas about Lent, I thought this was really interesting, required some very, very strict praying and fasting. There was the black fast, where you couldn't eat anything. It's kind of like Ramadan, nothing all day until sunset. And then you could only eat vegetarian. But there were some other ideas about fasting. Abstaining from meat or dairy, sweets, alcohol, sexual relations even, anything that could be interpreted as an indulgence. And all around the world, even today, variations of various fasting practices are done during Lent. There are a lot of rules, though. Fasting on Friday only, abstaining from eggs and meat and fish, or in another version, you can eat those, but you can't eat beef, pork, chicken. You can eat eggs and dairy. There's ideas about you have to be 14 or you have to be 18 before those rules apply, or if you're between 18 and 59, but you're over 59, all these rules. And some restrictions include, this was one of my, I'll leave the joke that came to my mind when I was reading this, I'll let you figure it out. Some restrictions include eating no meat from an animal with a spine, or animal products from any animal with a spine. No consensus, right? So, but why do people then give up chocolate for Lent? Well, the kickoff to Lent in the West is Mardi Gras or Fat Tuesday or Shrove Tuesday. And this year, in 2025, the eve of Lent is Fat Tuesday. And also in Brazil, we have Carnival, and that's the kickoff to Lent. It's kind of a debauchery sort of thing. And the idea is that you indulge in eating all those things that are indulgences that you don't engage in during Lent. And it took on a life of its own. But around here, you'll find churches will have what they call a Shrove Tuesday pancake supper. And pancakes are eggs and milk and dairy and things that were traditionally, excuse me, given up during Lent in the past. And it also includes a church service there where the focus is on confession. Now, confession in that context is intended to ask forgiveness of God and your fellow brothers and sisters, to forgive in your life for any wrongs or sins, to start the Lenten season off with a clear, clean slate. You kind of clear things up with God and your community before you start. And rather than harsh judgment, the intent of confession is to lift that burden of guilt off, so that we carry stuff around. I said this or I did this 30 years ago, and it's still like this burden. I always think of Marlowe's ghost in the Christmas Carol, and he shows up all with chains of all the things he bound to himself when he was alive. And so the idea is confession is to release that. Now, I'm not going to ask for any volunteer show of hands here, but I don't think I'm the only person in the room that has stuff I wish I hadn't done or thought or said, or, and I still kind of haven't processed it fully. So the idea is that you're liberated or freed from that burden, and that by letting go of that, what a freedom there is. Now we can look and see other people without projecting our own stuff. That log in your eye, and you've got this big log in your eye, and you're picking at somebody else's splinter in their eye. And that's what Lent is about, is like focusing and thinking about the things that I do that get in somebody else's way. My blend of Jesuit Catholic Christianity and Zen Buddhism really resonates with that practice. The practice of confession at its very best is intended to be a gift of lifting the burden of the heart away and to allow life to go on with a clean slate, and to ultimately find inspiration to turn away from obsessing about what I can't change in the past, but rather to learn how to go forward being a better person. And that's what penance is. You'll see it in the Buddhist practice, and you'll see it in the Christian practice as well. It's just intended to be a teaching to have a new practice. So in the West, we start Ash Wednesday as the beginning of Lent. That is not the Eastern practice. I'm going to not read that because it's long. But the Western practices begin with that special service. It also begins in Episcopalian and Roman Catholic services with the imposition of ashes. And ashes means several things. First of all, it's a reminder of our own mortality, that from dust you're made and from dust you return. It also, there is the metaphor for the refiner's fire, and ash is what is left. It's not Dante's hellfire of sin and burning and everybody's going there. No, this is that fire. We don't have exposure to it anymore, but where gold and silver are refined in a process where it's heated so high that the impurities are separated. So what you end up with is pure gold. And that's part of that metaphor of the ashes. It's just a purification. And the Buddhists talk about this too. But I think that's enough on that. So when Lent begins, there's lots of opportunities to go to church and hear and read stories to support the Lenten walk in the desert. And Catholic churches include a weekly, in a Catholic church usually there's these carvings on the wall that represent the 13 stations of the cross. Jesus walked through the city to his cross. He was carrying his own cross, and people were spitting on him and throwing all kinds of stuff at him. And there were 13 stations that are honored now. And there's usually, after that service, a really simple soup supper. It's usually on a Friday night. Many times people choose to give up an indulgence, which is to kind of help keep that focus. Like for the next 6 weeks, I'm going to, instead of indulging in, I talked to several people about what that means, including Monica here, who gave me a really interesting insight because I'd never thought about that. Back once upon a time, the peasants didn't have very many indulgences, right? They were living in hovels and scraping by. So for them to give up any kind of an indulgence was a huge ask and big. And now in our lives, we have indulgences everywhere. So some people nowadays will give up like their nightly TV addiction, or give up candy or something to remind themselves that these are things that we just kind of do to feed ourselves, but they don't really help us in a positive way. And it's a very individual choice. Not everybody chooses, and people choose very different things. But the sacrifices, hundreds of years ago, that was a huge, huge sacrifice that they gave. But the idea is to focus on learning how to be more like Jesus, to live closer to the gospel teaching of loving your neighbor, whoever that is, be it your best friend, a stranger, a refugee, as yourself, and caring for each other. And in addition, by eating more simply or fasting or by eating vegan only some of the time, the idea is to reflect on how a believer can live a life more closely focused on the example set by Jesus. And each believer chooses how they wish to do this. So we're clicking along now. It's like 2 weeks before Easter. I don't know what day we're on because it depends on what church you go to. And did you start on Monday or Wednesday? I don't know. And let's not go there. Are you on the Julian calendar? I don't know. And are we doing 46? And did we count Sundays? Could I eat chocolate on Sundays if I gave up chocolate? That's kind of not the point anymore. But in some liturgical churches, that's 2 Sundays before begins the season of what's called Passiontide. And this is like the crescendo towards the ending of Lent and moving into Easter. This year, Passiontide Sunday is April 6th. And it's the Sunday before Palm Sunday. The crucifix, which is usually hanging in one of the liturgical churches, is covered with a purple veil. And purple is a color of royalty, as we can see. It's a beautiful royal color. Brenna wore it today. And the altar may also be covered with that same purple. Then Palm Sunday begins Holy Week. And this year it also coincides with the beginning of Passover. And it coincides with the beginning of Holy Week in the Eastern Orthodox as well. So what is Palm Sunday? Well, back in the day, if you were a big deal in that area and you were visiting Jerusalem, you would be greeted with palm fronds strewn in your way. It's kind of like our red carpet welcome today. And since it was foretold that Jesus would arrive in Jerusalem for Passover riding a donkey, Jesus told his disciples ahead of time to go get a donkey that was waiting in a particular village tied to a particular post. And they went, and yep, there was that donkey tied exactly where he said it would be. And that was the donkey he rode into town on. They untied it, they took it to him, and into Jerusalem he rode, and he received a welcome with palm fronds. Some churches save those palm fronds and use them the next year to make the ashes for the Ash Wednesday. Some don't bother with that. At any rate, this year they all line up together. Another word for Passover is Paschal. And so you'll hear sometimes Jesus referred to as the Paschal Lamb. I'm not going to take time to explain Passover because we'll be here till 2 o'clock. It's really complicated. I will say that if you ever have an opportunity to go to a Seder dinner, you should go. They're really awesome. It's a great reminder. Seder dinner is part of the Jewish Passover tradition, and it's a wonderful way to understand where our faith comes from. But the reference here is to remind everyone that Jesus was a Jewish man. He was a Middle Eastern Jewish man. And he was returning to Jerusalem for Passover, as it was expected for him to do. In the Roman Catholic Church, Lent officially ends on Maundy, or also called Holy Thursday. Maundy comes from the Latin word mandatum, or mandate. It comes from Jesus' statement, "A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you." The ceremony of washing the feet of the poor is part of Maundy Thursday. So back in that same time, everyone wore sandals, and there was a lot of dust. So it was the custom for a well-heeled host, pardon the metaphor, to have their servants wash the feet of their guests. So on Maundy Thursday, Jesus he not only shared the Last Supper with his disciples, but he washed their feet. That he washed their feet was a big deal. It flipped the social power of the day that he did that. It was also on Maundy Thursday that Judas left the party and betrayed Jesus to the Roman soldiers. Because the Gospels describe foot washing by Jesus himself occurring that night, some churches do commemorate that practice by washing either everyone's feet, I've been in churches that do that, or by just washing maybe 12 people's feet, because we'd be there all night if they did everybody's. But it's also the night that Peter told Jesus that the soldiers were out to get him and suggested taking his own sword. I'll go get the guys, Lord. They're out to get you. I've got my sword. I'll go get them, and we'll fight. And Jesus said, put your sword away. He who lives by the sword dies by the sword. What was meant to be will be, he said. And later that night, Jesus was arrested after being found by the soldiers who were led to him by his best friends for some silver. And it was that same night he left the guys to go into the Garden of Gethsemane and there to pray. And that was where he was arrested. It was also the night that the beloved Peter denied knowing Jesus 3 times before the rooster crowed, just like Jesus said he would do. And Peter said, oh, no way, I would never do that, Lord. I'm yours. I'm here for you. And then said, oh, I never heard of the guy. I don't know. There's a lot of lessons here, by the way, human, how we are. So the Paschal Triduum, I'm not sure how to say that, I've never known, is the period of 3 days that begins with that special liturgy on Maundy Thursday. And it continues with the liturgy of the Lord's Passion on Good Friday, reaching its high point in the Easter Vigil, on the night of Holy Saturday, which is usually a service that starts later on Saturday night and goes overnight. And it culminates in the joyous, happy Easter Sunday. On Good Friday, a special service commemorates Jesus' death on the cross, ends in darkness and silence, with reverencing the cross in Anglican and Catholic churches, and leaving a darkened service in candlelight silence. Sometimes something called a tenebrae service is done, where you hear this big boom, and that's the closing of the tomb. And usually that same 3 days, there's a 24-hour prayer vigil in sort of a tag team affair, so that it's not the same person that has to stay there for 24 hours. But it's praying over that time. Christian liturgy celebrates the death and then resurrection of Christ in this time. This is the idea that Christ conquered death and that death has no victory in the end. By coming back to his disciples, because remember, he came back to his friends and appeared to his friends. He also showed that he forgave them and that he understood them and he loved them anyway. For me, that Christ was betrayed by his best friends, endured the unbelievable torture and humiliation, ending in a brutal public death, but still came back and engaged with those same people in love. That's the most powerful part of the story for me. By his death and resurrection, he showed us a different way of being. That in the most ultimate way, there's really nothing to fear. And this theme is abundant in many religions around the world, and I think of Buddha's life too, and teaching, and how all the suffering we live with is inflicted onto our own lives, our own selves, by our fierce attachments to so many transient things. And that's the same message Jesus gave. So, to perhaps understand the practices of Lent, think of it as fasting, which is some kind of giving up of some indulgence. Self-reflection, thinking about that log or that bias that you have in your own life. And almsgiving. A liturgical church set times aside each year to intentionally focus on these 3 areas, to remind us all the things we get tangled up with in our lives don't lead to the ultimate enlightenment, nirvana, heaven, union with God. And the 40 or so days of Lent are set aside as a time to take as long as it takes to contemplate these things, how we humans can live our lives more closely to the ways that Jesus showed us. For Christians, the foundation for these practices is our faith in God, and for many like myself, faith in the Trinity. I am a Trinitarian. But Unitarian Universalists can also use the Lenten practices to set aside time to reflect on the indulgences of our lives here and how they might distract from other important fundamentals of life. To begin a meditation practice, consider less TV or screen time in favor of reading or study, or look at how to be more generous in almsgiving by sharing resources and time. Time and talents are important things to give, besides just money. And I heard recently that money would be welcome around here, right around now too. But Lent then ends with this big party. There's unlimited food and flowers and joy and light, and in liturgical churches now we can sing hallelujahs in church again. But it also brings hope that as we've spent these 40-ish days contemplating how I could be a better person, how I could be more generous, or is there some practice I can take on that will deepen my life experience, whatever that is. It ends with, if we get discouraged, now we can see the hope. Side note here. When Jesus first appeared after his death, they went to the tomb and pulled the rock back and it was empty. It was the women he appeared to first. It was the women he said, go tell the others. Just had to read that in there. So the Unitarian Universalism takeaways that I think I drew from this is that the story of his torture and death and resurrection, and then returning to the people that had followed him. They also threw him under the bus. And he came back and said, I still love you guys. I still want you to come be with me. I forgive you. I understand you're a bunch of knuckleheads, but I love you anyway. Come be with me. He showed us a way of being. Sorry, this always tears me up. I've never been able to get past it. And as I understand Unitarian Universalism, love is at the center of those shared values. There's a lot to learn about love from this story, regardless of how much of that story you believe or don't believe, with any particular aspect of the story. But it's a powerful story to keep in mind at this particular time in history about loving and being compassionate with people who challenge us in so many ways. So this Lenten and Easter belief is my faith practice, and it's my intention during these next few weeks to immerse myself in a community where I can fully experience this walk. You might see a little less of me over these next few weeks until the end of April. I'm around, I'm not going away forever, but as always, I'm leaving and coming back in love for you. Thank you.
It is our quiet time. We do not speak because the voices are within us. It is our quiet time. We do not walk because the earth is all within us. It is our quiet time. We do not dance because the music has lifted us to a place where the Spirit is. It is our quiet time. We will rest with all of nature. We wake when the seven sisters wake. We greet them in the sky over the opening. We support UUCS through our pledges, time, and connections with one another. We support the Salem community through donations to the Marian Polk Food Share. And for the month of March, our partner church in Schumann-Falva, Transylvania, Romania. For those of you in person, you may donate food for the Marian Polk Food Share into the Little Red Wagon. Monetary gifts for the Share the Plate recipient may be placed in the offertory bags that will be passed. You may go to the website to donate or click the QR code at the bottom of your order of service. Thank you for maintaining the community of UUCS and for helping the wider community of Salem. Next Sunday, the Reverend Monica Jacobson Tennyson will be here, We will be talking about the evidence of things not seen. Joining the celebration, Reverend Monica has accepted a full-time. Oh, your turn.
I'm telling you, I haven't seen you all in like 2 days or something, so, I need to come here and speak. Today, I am here speaking as your chair of your board, as is Della Ford as the vice chair, and in case you don't know me, I'm Sarah Pickett. And we have some really exciting news. First of all, we have two bits of exciting news. First of all, I want to thank you all so much for your continual support of UUCS. We're getting really close to maintaining all the great things that we do here, and we just need a little bit more to allow us to continue to grow and develop as the loving community that we are. And in that frame of mind, we have some really exciting news to share with you. We wanted to let you know as soon as possible, because I know some of you have been asking. You might be able to guess what I'm going to say. After consultation with UUA, after the past, look at the past few months, the board is really pleased to announce that we have offered Reverend Monica Jacobson-Tennyson a contract to be full-time. And yet there's more. Not only full-time, starting July 1st of this year, but full-time for 4 years. In consultation with UUA, it's really thought that having a 4-year contract, having that security of someone that knows us, someone that can help us grow, will help us lead us to the future that we want it to be. So we hope that so she's still part-time until the end of June. And she will be here next Sunday, so we hope that you come and you join us in a toast for that. And then starting July 1st, she will be with us full-time, at least through June 30th of 2029. Yay! And Jill would like to share a couple of things.
Hi, I just wanted to share a couple of things. I didn't know Monica before she came, just recently as a part-time minister here. And as vice chair of the board, I've been able to get to know her pretty well. And I wanted to share a couple of things that I have grown to really appreciate about her. One, of course, is her love of the ministry. And we've all experienced that, I think, from her sermons, they have really, I think, fed our souls, especially in this difficult, mean-spirited political climate that we're in. And the other thing that I really have grown to appreciate about her is her love of governance, which I was a bit surprised about because often, governance is just one thing that needs to be done, but she loves it. And she actually describes herself as a governance nerd. And so I just feel like we're so fortunate because in my experience, it's often very hard to find a passion for ministry and a passion for governance in one person. So I'm just feeling very grateful that we found her and she found us. I think possibly the sacred was involved in that a bit. But I'm really looking forward to, she's also very committed to a shared leadership management style. So in order for this transitional process to really work, it really is a partnership of us, the congregation, with the minister. It's not just the minister's responsibility, it's all of us partnering and working together. And I think that's one of her gifts, is that she's not only passionate about the ministry, but she's passionate about management. So I think we're just very fortunate. So, thank you.
If you are wanting to get news of the community, you can call the church office, you can use the QR code, you can email. Next week, as I said, Monica will be here, and I think we will move on to our... We take the light from our chalice, lighting the social justice lantern. It is a symbolic reminder of the light and justice that we carry out into the world. As we extinguish the chalices, let us hear these words from Psalm 121 from our UU hymnal. I lift my eyes to the mountains. Ah, where is help to come from? Help comes from the Eternal, who made heaven and earth. The Eternal guards you, sheltering you. The Eternal will protect you as you come and go, now and forever.
Please now rise in body or spirit as you are able as we sing our closing hymn, number 1007, There's a River Flowing in My Soul. We'll sing the 3 verses. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing in my soul.
The words for this will be on the back of your order of service. Please join me in saying our closing words. May faith, the spirit of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours now and in all the days to come. Blessed be.
Thank you, choir. New music coming out on Thursday. I'll see everybody Thursday, yeah? Yep. Right on, right on. And I'll take your stole if you like. I'll collect. Your stole collector.
Stealer.
Stole stealer.
A stoler.
The stole's not what stolen. Yeah. Yesterday I stole. Oh, there we go. Need a purple. Hey, Tom.
watch it on TV. Yes. Glad to see you.
Few little wrinkles.